6 videos in one. That's right, 6 videos for the price of one. I'm Eddie Field with Field Guided DIY. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this beautiful entryway table, but I'm going to show you 5 of the issues that I encountered. That's going to give you 6 videos in one. Let's dive in. So I got the idea for this table because we saw my dear friend's entry table that she paid $300 to commission to have made. It's a beautiful entryway table, and I saw it and I thought, I could make that. I showed this picture to my daughter and she said, Dad, could you make me one? And I'm like, yeah. I was gonna make one for Susan, but she paid a guy to do it. So I went to Home Depot and I picked out some Pine D-Select. That is not free, but it is definitely not free. You're gonna pay about 2.5 times more than you're gonna pay for knotty pine. Now your regular pine is gonna have twists and turns and knots in it where the branches come out. But your Pine D-Select is gonna be more clear, particularly like it's gonna be straighter and it's gonna be knot free. But like I said, it's not free. So I picked out some Pine D-Select. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna have a link in the description to where you can pick up a detailed drawing of this plan. These are just regular 2x2 legs, and I cut those down so at the top measures 32 inches height. Standard tabletop height or desktop height is 30 inches. She wanted a little higher. Now you don't have to have a $600 compound miter saw to make these straight cuts. You can make a same straight cut with a regular circular saw. Now if you're not steady-handed or make a straight cut with a circular saw, you could use a speed square as a saw fence. Put it wherever you're gonna cut it and make your cut that way. The skirt across the top, that's just regular 1x3. And the skirt across the bottom, that's regular 1x2. And then the top, I didn't do any fancy joinery. I could have used it on the jointer over here, but I didn't because, quite frankly, the seam, when I butted them together, was so close, I didn't need to work it at all. And so I purchased 1x8 and 1x6, joined them together, and then I only had to trim off just ½ an inch once I had them together to make it the 12-inch depth that the table needs to be. So once I had all the stock cut down, then it came time for assembly. One of the tools that I use, and I swear by it, has made my furniture building so much easier, is the Kreg pocket hole jig. So what I do is I set it to 3/4 inch thick because that's how thick 1x is. I set my collar at my 3/4 inch depth, and then I just drill out those pocket holes. Once I have all those pocket holes, then it comes time for assembly. I always like to use glue because it helps it hold together a lot better. Then you use patented pocket hole screws. They have a little different head in that it's a square hole that fits with the square tip bit. It really holds together better with that bit and that head as opposed to a Phillips head screw. Now, what I like to do is, a lot of times when you're screwing your pocket hole in, you're gonna have adjustment where what you're screwing into is gonna be pulled up. So I clamp it together to hold it level and flush. So I assembled the back and the face, then it came time to add the 2 sides. Then I had my table assembly together. I just drilled my pocket holes, my 3 pocket holes once again, and screwed the 2 pieces together. So once the 2 pieces were together, I started to sand it off with a belt sander. But midway in the sanding process, the belt broke. That happens from time to time. And so how you replace the belt is, there's a lever on this model, and on most other models, there's a lever on the side that retracts this front wheel, takes it down, takes it down and gives you slack. I take my replacement belts. I'll have a link in the description for this as well. When you get replacement belts, you have to find out exactly what size belt your belt sander takes. This takes 3 inches wide by 24-inch belt. And you want to look inside. There's going to be the printing of what direction the belt needs to spin at. So I'm going to put that on that way and that on that way. And then lock it in position. Then what you want to do is you want to use this adjustment knob right here to center the belt. So once I had the new belt on there, I was able to finish up the top, get it nice and smooth. Once again, using pocket holes to hold the shelf and the top on to the table. Once the table was all assembled and I had my shelf on and my top on, then it came time to do this little trim accent across the top. For that, I used my router. This is a little trim router. This is from Bosch. I got a great deal on it. And in addition, I was able to score such a value on the router that I was able to purchase the Bosch router bit set. It gives you a little profile of what that carving is going to look like. So my daughter wanted a nice roundover effect. The bit goes in the chuck. Oh, by the way, you also want to tighten it down with the 2 wrenches that were supplied with the router. And then we adjust it just enough so that there's a roundover. Lock that in position, and then I did my roundover. So by this point, I had it all assembled, nice clean edge on there, nice. Now it come time to smooth things out. And for that, I use my Bosch orbital sander. I found a set, a big stack, a big assortment of these sanding pads that fit my Bosch orbital sander. I chose the orbital sander because it's a lot more forgiving when you're doing sanding on the grain. If you're not using an orbital sander and you sand across the grain, you're gonna leave sanding marks. So you don't wanna do that. So that's why the orbital sander is very forgiving. So I start off with 60 grit, and that gets things nice and smooth and even. And then I step down from there. Next to 120, 180, 220, 400, and finally 600. By the time I hit 600, we were ready for preparation. How do you get the best looking finish? For the last several projects, I've always used pre-stained wood conditioner. Why is that? Because wood absorbs stain at different rates, especially if you have different types of woods or different woods from different trees. So the pre-stained wood conditioner helps the wood grain to absorb at the same rate, so you don't have darkness, splotchiness, or dark grain. It just makes it a nice even tone across all your wood. Once I had the wood conditioner on there, I applied light walnut stain. This was where I messed up, because the picture of the wood grain on the label was definitely not what it came out. As I applied it, it looked pink. And I thought, oh no. See, that was my mistake. I could have taken an easy scrap and applied the light walnut to the scrap before I applied it to the piece. Big mistake, rookie mistake. Do I need to sand off the entire piece? Because I applied the stain to the entire piece. So we ended up with special walnut, And that's what you see here. The special walnut is over this light walnut. I think it gives it a nice warm tone, don't you? But learn from my mistake. Apply your stain, whatever stain it is. Don't trust the picture. Apply it on a piece of scrap wood, and you'll see exactly how it's going to look like. But I don't sand after I apply the stain. I go straight to the urethane. Now, another mistake. I applied clear satin. So I applied the clear satin finish. I probably should have applied it on a test piece, but I didn't. But it was too shiny, way too glossy. But my practice is to apply 3 coats of urethane with sanding with 600 grit in between coats. I switched up to a matte finish, and that's what we landed on. So I had 2 more coats with the matte finish with sanding with 600 grit in between. And I really think that cute little table pops. It probably only cost me like $30, $40 in wood, but for the time and price, I got a nice project out of it, as well as a gift for my daughter. Oh, my son-in-law too. So I hope you learn from my mistakes. To learn from more mistakes that I make in the future, click the image on your screen now. I'll see you in the next video.